It was definitely better than the one I just met, the Colts-Bears game. That was terrible. And even though that game was 29-17, there was another one. Steelers-Seahawks stunk. 21-10.
That was bad, too. Yep.
This one was better than that. So it wasn't the worst. It's just one of those things, KC Joyner, where the world we live in is we want points, and when we don't see points, it's not entertaining. But just because it's not entertaining doesn't mean it's a bad game.
No, true. It was as Josh we were just talking. He said it was a chess match, and I said, yeah, it was a chess match. The only thing is that Sean McVay and Jared Goff are playing checkers. So
yeah, and he admitted as much after the game that he kind of got fleeced in that game.
He got completely outcoached. He did not have a plan B. We talk frequently on this segment about teams having a plan A, and then if it doesn't work, you got to have plan B. The Rams did not have a plan B, or they didn't until the fourth quarter, and even then their plan B didn't work.
So let's take a look at a couple of things here. Number one, Edelman. He's the MVP. They were talking about him maybe being a Hall of Famer. You can comment on that if you'd like, but how is he constantly open?
He's constantly open because of the variations of things that you can do. He can run ingoing routes, outgoing routes, and there are things you're going to set up with routes that are going to get him to do certain things. And they were expecting him to run over routes and sail routes and things going across the middle, and he was faking those hard, and the Rams cornerbacks were biting and guessing. They didn't double him, which is crazy. You can't put him in the Hall of Fame if you use the Lynn Swann comparison, and that Swan was fantastic in the playoffs and had his best games in the playoffs, and he did that, and he had good regular seasons. But you can get him in on that if you want to. I personally wouldn't, but if somebody said, hey, we're going to put him in on that kind of flyer, I would be okay with it.
How do you defend him? I mean, if you know this is what he's doing, what is the best way for teams to kind of try to take him out?
It's difficult because if you're going to do true bracketing, where you're going to have somebody high and low and say, okay, we're going to take him, somebody's going to take him high, somebody's going to take him low, then fine, he just runs sail routes and runs digs, he runs things across the field. You've got somebody covering high and somebody covering him low, and then he can go that way with it. And if you do that, you've got to commit a safety to him, and if you're committing a safety to him, okay, then you only have one safety over the top, and then it puts some weaknesses in your secondary, and it helps if you can go defeat that type of coverage. But if you can't beat anybody over the top, and the Rams couldn't do that yesterday, then you can't commit safety to him either. So it's very difficult. You almost have to just limit that he's going to accept that he's going to catch a certain number of passes and let him get those, but you can't let him beat you on the vertical passes, which they were letting him do yesterday.
Now, Ryan and I were talking about at the beginning of the show, like, he's a younger guy. He wasn't all that entertained by the game. I'm a little older. I said, Casey, I remember watching San Francisco beat Denver 55-10. I remember a lot of those games in the late 80s, early 90s. So last night was a joy for me to see a competitive game. But where he and I kind of differed was I said, I thought the Patriots defense was excellent last night. Like almost when you look at the history of Super Bowls, you would go back and say the effort that the Patriots defense had in that Super Bowl, that's something that was memorable.
It was, and the problem with that is, and I love defensive football and creative defensive football, but Jared Goff had passes that were available to him, and he had times where even when the rush was getting to him, if he decides to step up, like go historical in football, step up like Terry Bradshaw in Super Bowl 10, getting knocked out in his game-winning touchdown pass to Lynn Swann. I mean, that if you step up into those passes, he steps up into that throw to Cooks that got intercepted, he may complete that thing for the touchdown and win the game, but instead he threw off his back foot. So as much as I was impressed with what the Patriots were doing, I was really disgusted by how Jared Goff just got rattled by the game. In fact, he showed, I posted on Twitter that he's not a big game quarterback, and got a lot of pushback that he's only 23. Guys, if you feel the rush when you're 23 years old, you're going to feel it for the rest of your career. I think we learned a lot about who he is.
Yeah, Casey, and just to give my side of the fence here with this debate, the NFL has been offense, 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 offense for 5, 6, 7 years, however long it's been. So for us to wake up today and say, man, what a defensive battle, when we haven't seen defense in years, it's just hard for me to get behind that. Listen, I know the defense played well. I know there was plays made. But overall, for me, the story is lousy offense in that game.
Yeah, the story is the lack of execution. And the Patriots, there's only, I believe, if I'm quoting this right, that there are only two quarterbacks who had a 50% or a lower completion rate against the Patriots this year. One was Josh Allen, and the second was Jared Goff yesterday. So, I mean, this is not a defense that has been dominating as far as completion percentage, and the Rams could not figure out a way to even get – I mean, again, Goff completed 50% of his passes, and part was because he had those gimme passes at the end of the game. You take those out, and almost the entire contest, he's not completing 50% of his throws. Goff, against this defense, is completing 50% of his passes. Again, give Brian Flores and the defensive efforts for the Patriots a lot of credit, but that's just a really bad game by Goff. He looked overwhelmed by this the whole Super Bowl stage.
What's going on with Gurley? I mean, is he hurt? Is he not hurt? I thought leading up to the game, all right, maybe he was a little bit banged up in the playoffs, but today they're going to figure out a way to incorporate him in good ways, in creative ways. A no-call, no-show from him yesterday. He comes out after the game. No, I'm not hurt. What's going on there?
Part of it is that I think they decided they wanted to go thunder and lightning. They wanted to. They would like to use a situation where they didn't have to lean on him for the bulk of the backfield production. That we're not going to make this guy our bell cow like we did earlier this year. I still think his knee is slowing him, even if he's not technically injured to the point where he had to be put in the injury report. But if you look at the carries, he still led the team in carries. He had 12 touches, and it was even more touches than any other player on the team. So he still was the most utilized skill position player on the team. We're just used to seeing him get so many other plays. And they got to a point, I think, when they wanted to go heavy on offense, they didn't want to use him as the heavy on offense. They want to use C.J. Anderson to do those plays and then save Gurley for the breakaway plays. And so I think they just decided to go with the platoon setup, which is odd to do, and I don't think they'll do it in the future, but it does say that Gurley's knee probably has to be still less than 100%.
What were they able to do all year long with that offense that was non-existent last night? Because that's what, to me, made what the Patriots did so special. When we talk about, well, it's lack of execution, was it really lack of execution, or did the Patriots take them out of what they were successful at during the year?
The Patriots blitzed heavily, just like they did. In fact, they used a lot of the similar game plan to what they did against the Chiefs. We're going to load the box, and then we're going to blitz heavily out of it. They blitzed the Chiefs on nearly 50% of the plays. They blitzed yesterday on dropbacks. They blitzed Goff on 50% of the dropbacks. So they said, we're going to get in your face. You can't handle pressure. We're going to do creative things with our pressure. They also kept their gap environment. They were very good at gap control. They made sure they stayed in their gaps, which is something they were terrible at most of the season. But they worked on that, and they had somebody playing a type of coverage, the Robert-type coverages, where they've got a safety who comes down and takes away the crossing routes. So the things that the Rams are looking for, because Rams like to play a lot of condensed sets where they've got a bunch set of receivers and close to the tight end, and then they run a lot of crossing routes off that. And the Patriots just basically said a lot of the time, we're taking those crossing routes from you. You're going to have to beat us on passes to the outside, and Goff just was not ready to do that.
KC Joyner, ESPN.com senior NFL insider here, looking at the Super Bowl game from last night. And, the Patriots, I would ask you, I mean, not to sit here and off the top of your head rank them, but this has got to be the most nondescript bunch of the six.
It has to be, because you look at, okay, who's their top receiver? And again, Edelman's a very good receiver, and you can make a postseason case for him to be in the Hall of Fame, but Gronk's not what he was in the past. You're looking at Edelman has 12 targets. Gronk has 7 targets. Nobody else on their team has. Hogan had 6 targets. He had no receptions on those 6 targets. So they don't have anybody as a receiver. They've got good running backs. They've got a really good offensive line because of their coach, but they don't have any great defensive players. Like I said yesterday on Twitter, I said that Edelman was the only player on the Patriots who probably deserved to be MVP. And people are pushing back, well, the whole defense should be. It's like, well, the defense played well as a group. They played well collectively. But they talk about Gilmore having a great play. Yeah, he picked off an underthrown pass. Let's not give the guy an MVP for picking a pass that he would have been a goat at, or he would have been a goat in the bad sense if he dropped it.
What do you think about Gronk? Did he play his last game last night, Casey?
I would think that he would. He talks about going to Hollywood, and when people say you're gonna, if you say you're retired or you're thinking about retiring, you're probably already retired. And if you're him, what else is there to do? I mean, you don't need the money. He's lived off of his endorsement deals for the last few years. He doesn't need the cash. He could get in the professional wrestling if he wanted to. The WB they've said yes, we definitely like you to come if you wanted to show up even just for WrestleMania. He could do clips like that. He could do acting. There's all kinds of things that he could do. Why not retire on top? And he's obviously not what he has been in the past. He's been banged up his entire career. He's heading into his 30s. I mean, it's now's the best time for him to leave, and if he knows timing, he'll hang it up.
how much longer do you think Brady really has? Because I think it's really interesting to me, and I heard from from someone else yesterday or early this morning that they brought up a good point. The game is shifting so much that it allows Brady and Breeze to play so much longer. 3 steps, balls out. Do you think that the scrambling quarterback is going to become extinct here over the next 3, 4, 5 years, and this style of play is really going to be the type of quarterback that the league wants?
Quarterback coaching is at a better place than it's ever been in football history, professional or college. That they get better coaching in college, they get there's more quarterback development being done even at the high school level. I think that's made the game more quarterback centric than it's ever been in the past. And to answer the question, how long I think Brady will be around, I think Brady will be the starter for the Patriots longer than Goff will be the starter for the Rams.
Wow. Huh.
Goff, he proved yesterday he's not a big game quarterback. McVay is what makes him a great has made him a very good quarterback. I even had a conversation with Michael David Smith from Pro Football Talk. We were talking on Twitter. I had a little conversation back and forth. He thinks that the Rams will never say it publicly, but that they think there are many other quarterbacks who could do just as well in the system. In fact, I think if I'm the Rams, I might try and go after Nick Foles, because I know Foles can do a better job. I know Foles has a higher upside, and Goff's never been a big game quarterback. I think he's kind of a mercenary. That the money is what motivates him, and I'm not sure that he wants to be, he wants to step up to be more of that. And another thing, people talk about the Rams having this open window. Oh, they're going to be in the Super Bowl in future years. Teams that have lost the Super Bowl have come back to win the Super Bowl within 3 years of their loss only twice in the last 30 years, and that was Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, only 2 quarterbacks to do it. Goff is not the type of quarterback to turn this around. I think this was the Rams' window, and I think it's going to be closed, and I think they need to go elsewhere.
Well, interestingly enough, they had Foles let him go to take Goff.
Yes.
Right? Think about it from that perspective.
Well, so they know what they would be getting. You could make that argument that they know what they would be getting, both from having him in the organization before and seeing what he's done in the postseason. Now, look, Foles has some inconsistencies too. He's had some games where he hasn't exactly been great. So I mean, there's issues there. But I think Goff is just a system quarterback. I think that he has McVay talking in his ear and talks him up to have these great games. And because McVay communicates with him right until the last second, and basically they get up to the line early, so McVay can get a look at the defense and tell him what he needs to do. I'm a little concerned if that's what my quarterback is that he's got to go. That I need the coach in his ear telling him what to do. This isn't Terry Bradshaw or Ken Staber calling his own plays. This is somebody calling him for him. And I think Belichick knew that and made adjustments late on plays, because he knew once McVay gets out of your ear, you're Jared Goff at that point, and I know I could beat you.
What about Belichick? You're a guy who's a historian, man, and he's got 6, and everybody knows it's Belichick's way or the highway. But, I mean, in this day and age, somebody thought, hey, McVay's getting guys hired all over the place. This is the way the league's going. And Belichick, it looked like he took that personal.
He did, and the thing about Belichick in history is you look at teams, this has been about a 20-year run. You look at the Cowboys back in the day, they had a 25-year run, but they only made 5 Super Bowls because they faced other super teams. They faced the Steelers. They faced some other teams that kept them from being the dominant team. You look at the Raiders. The Raiders had about a 20-year stretch. Same thing. They had to face the Dolphins. They had to face the Steelers. Those great 70s Dolphins and Steelers teams. So teams have had 20-year runs before, even the 49ers, but they had to face all those NFC East teams, and they had to face the Bears as well. The Patriots have this 20-year run. There's no dominant team that's able to siphon away some of those Super Bowl appearances and Super Bowl wins. That's why they've had the run that they've had. So we'll get another team that has another 20-year run in them. It will happen. It's happened enough times in league history to say this is not the last time it'll happen. It's just if they don't have, if the other teams don't have, if they have a super team that they have to deal with at any point, they'll never match this from a historical perspective. We're never going to see 6 Super Bowls in 18 years again.
It's amazing to me because, I said at the end of the game last night was, man, you're telling me there's not another team in this league that was good enough to take this team out. And it just, I don't know what that says about the state of the league because, again, just a nondescript team. It's not like this is a great Patriots team. As they said, there were people that looked at them and said, they're good this year. They're the Patriots. They're going to win the East. But I don't think a lot of people looked at them as a definitive Super Bowl champion this year.
Now, if you say who's the best team in the league as far as talent-wise or who played the best this year, you'd say the Saints played better. The most talented team in the AFC is not New England, it's Pittsburgh, but they can't get out of their own way because they have all those locker room things. And Kansas City is what they are, but they couldn't do their defensive coaching was their weakness. They fired the defensive coordinator because they couldn't keep from getting into shootout games. The Patriots just find so many ways to not lose. And it's funny that they do that and other teams can't figure out the way that they figure to not lose games. It's like it's not that complex, and yet you have other teams can't figure out how to stop this. And I don't think that this Patriots team, I wouldn't put them on. We did our 2019 power rankings where we think the teams are going to be in 2019. I didn't put the Patriots at the top of the list. They ranked fourth on our list, so I think that they're not going to be a repeat team. They're not going to get another championship. But again, if these teams, their competitors, keep screwing up and keep finding ways to lose games, and the Patriots find ways to win, we could be back here next year.
Yeah, I know. The Patriots, they kind of do it their own way, but as you mentioned, they've had a run of success that. It's going to be tough to see. For me, anyway, you said someone else will do it. I don't know how somebody else duplicates what's going on here because of the way the league is set up. That's what makes what they do is so well. But Brian asked you about Brady. How long does Belichick keep doing this?
I think Belichick keeps doing it until now that he knows that he's probably not going to. There was a time when it looked like, okay, he's going to go Garoppolo, and then he would want to be motivated to show, hey, this is me. This isn't just Brady. This is me. I'm the one who's making this difference. Now that Brady looks like he's going to stick around until whenever, and Belichick is 66 years old. So even if Brady only plays 2 or 3 more years, Belichick could be 68, 69 years old. I think he knows if Brady were to leave that I think at that point it's going to be tough for him to go win any more Super Bowls. He may stick around to try and get one more Super Bowl win without Brady, and if he could do that, it would cement who he is. But if I'm Belichick, you still have a Super Bowl window open as long as you got Brady playing at this level, and as long as the other teams are still falling victim to your coaching techniques. So I don't see any reason why he doesn't try and stick around and fill the second handful of rings.
Casey, is Doug Peterson a better offensive coach than Sean McVay coming off last night's game? 41 points last year for the Eagles.
I would think he would be. McVay has a system that, again, they play those condensed sets with their receivers, and they're going to bring them close to the line. Condensed formations, they're usually using what they call 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 receivers, and they do a lot of things with that. But I think also, by the way, when I think of the Rams lost Cooper Kupp, he gave them a third receiver that was able to allow them to stretch the field and do things that they couldn't do. Josh Reynolds is just a big drop-off, and I think that started to limit their offense. And once that happened and you had Gurley come out of the lineup, or he got banged up, I think their offense went into a completely different direction. And I think Peterson, if you gave him that same set of talent, would be doing more with it. He wouldn't be just leaning on the same concepts and the same type of structure. I think he'd be trying to do more with it. So, yeah, I would take Peterson to play call over McVay.
All these coaches that McVay got hired, are those teams scratching their head and saying, whoops?
They have to be. And what the amazing part about that is McVay says after the game, he says, hey, I got out-coached. There's no other way to put it. I got out-coached. And he has said that before. Like, at least once in press conferences, I think it's multiple times he said in press conferences, I need to do a better job of play calling. I got out-coached today play calling-wise. You would think those teams would be paying attention to that going, guys, the guy is telling you he's learning on the job. Yes, he's very creative, but he has Todd Gurley. He has Robert Woods. He has Brandon Cooks. He has some really a good offensive line. He's got some good players around him here, so I know he's a really creative play caller, but let's not act like he's the best play caller in the league. And, yeah, he's changed culture. A lot of coaches change culture, so I'm looking at it going, I think that those teams didn't recognize that McVay, by his own admission, has some weaknesses in his game that I think if they do get the next Sean McVay, they're going to wonder why they got him.
KC Joyner all season long with us here, Super Bowl champions, the New England Patriots again. They beat the Rams last night 13-3. Is there a team in the AFC East that is on the horizon, or is this again going to be New England for the foreseeable future?
I still don't understand the AFC East. You look at the Jets hire Gase. Okay, Gase didn't do anything that the Dolphins did would make you think against the Patriots, make you think, oh, this guy's turning things around. Now, mind you, he got 7 wins out of a Dolphins team that has 4 win caliber talent, so he got more out of them than what was there. but that's still not enough to say, hey, you went to contend to the Patriots. Now you're bringing in Brian Flores. Out of all the coaches in the Belichick tree who've left Belichick and went to coach for other teams, only one coach has a winning record. That's Bill O'Brien, and he's like 3 games over 500. So I don't understand why they're hiring Flores. And the Bills, for what they are, they just don't have – they can't keep up talent-wise. They don't do a good enough job of talent collection. So I'm looking at the East going, no, I think this is still going to be – I would be surprised if the Patriots didn't win all 6 next year in that division.
It should be interesting to see what the Patriots do and how much – because Brady did not play well last night. That's not to suggest that he's out of gas. I mean, we've seen Brady have bad games, but that was a big moment where he typically shines to see what he gives you in a full year next year. If he starts to show – do you think he'll start to show signs of decay?
I think that they need to make sure they give him vertical targets, because they took away Brandon Cooks, who in 2017 accounted for 38% of the Patriots, what I call stretch vertical production. That's passes throwing 20 more yards downfield. They took that away. So you take that much of the production away, and you don't replace it with anybody who's capable of doing that. I mean, Chris Hogan, again, 6 targets yesterday, 5 of them were vertical passes. He didn't catch any of them. You're not giving him a vertical receiver. And with Gronk slowing down, suddenly all you had was dink and dunk receivers. So I think you need to, if you want him to step back up and play like he did a couple years ago, even if he has a little bit of a drop off physically, you've got to give him better receivers. They need to get some tear the top off the defense threats. If they don't do that, then this offense is still going to be limited from that perspective.
All right, the 2018-19 Super Bowl in the books. New England back on top. We will see what is next. And, of course, KC Joyner all season long with us here on the Sports Bash as the New England Patriots, once again, your Super Bowl champions. KC, it's always a fun ride. The football season is fantastic, and we can't wait to get into another one next year.
Looking forward to it, man.